Welcome back to Weldtechsolutions. In today's video we're working on a PC or 2G welding position as we're going to take on a 15mm thick horizontal single V butt weld. We'll start with 6011 electrodes for the root pass to get that penetration, and then we're going to switch it over to a 7018 to fill and cap the joint for its finish. So let's get into it. So after getting the joint tacked up with a 2.5mm root gap, we get our first run in with 2.5mm 6011 electrodes. We initially started at 70 amps, but as you can see the heat was a little bit too high and the keyhole opened up wider than we wanted, making it difficult to keep that root controlled. So dropping down to 60 amps gave us a better stability and keyhole control we needed. For the root pass we're using a whipping motion moving forward and back to create a constant keyhole and regulate how much metal pushes through to the back side. This motion allows us to control penetration, manage that weld puddle and prevent the keyhole from blowing the arc out. So with that run complete, we cheeky chip the slag off, and as you can see we've penetrated nicely all the way through with a nice even run. So moving on to our next pass, we've ground it just to get that slag out of the way before we start the next run, and we're on to our hot pass. For this run we've switched up to 105 amps and moved to a 325 electrode using them 7018s. We're keeping a steady travel speed with a slight drag angle pointing the rod slightly upwards to defy that wonderful thing called gravity. The key here is to avoid excess heat. So too many amps or lingering in one spot can overheat that root and push additional metal through to the back side, which can distort or disturb the root bead we've already established. But with that in mind, we still have to remember to fully fuse into that run to burn out any areas of lack of fusion. As you can see, we're putting a slight weave on the rod to ensure it fully covers that first run. Once that pass is complete, we get our cheeky chipper out, knock that slag off and check that the bead is tied in properly and is covering that previous run nicely. That sets us up then for our next pass, where we're going to up our amps to 125 and we're going to split that due to the size and the width of the joint. So the aim here is to cover half of the hot pass while fusing cleanly into the bottom plate. We don't want this run sitting too high because it can make our gap too small for the second run to sit in, and that's exactly where that slag is going to get trapped in. A good rule of thumb, if you can't comfortably fit that bottom of the rod in the gap, it's probably too tight, and this can lead to slag inclusions and lack of fusion. As you can see, we're still maintaining that drag angle, pushing up, trying to defy gravity, making sure that run's fusing into that top plate as well as the run below it, making sure the slag isn't coming round the front of us, potentially causing any lack of fusion issues or any slag traps. So we're coming towards the end of that run, burning it nice and slow, maintaining that arc length, and if everything's gone to plan we should have two runs fused together nicely, sitting flat and tying in cleanly with each other. So we turned our machine up to 130 amps and we're using the same technique as the previous passes to build our next layer, which we're completing this time with 3 runs. With the first 2 runs already in, this final run completes the layer and gives us a nice flat foundation to work from. Remember, keeping each layer flat is what helps maintain consistent run height and overall weld profile, because as my granddad always said, nobody likes saggy bits. So with the next layer we've put our first 2 runs in using the same technique, and we're now putting our final pass in place to complete that layer, which will bring us up to flush. We've left both edges of the prep still visible, which means we've still got clear lines to follow to keep our cap as straight as we possibly can. So for the capping run we're still using 125 amps. The goal here is to fuse the edges of the prep cleanly while keeping the run as straight and consistent as possible. If you don't, you weld like Dave and shake all over the place, your passes will be so wavy the metal might get seasick, so you might as well get your fishing rod out as well while you're at it. It's important because each pass sets up the next one. Making sure you put down a straight and consistent run is crucial. Now we're on to our second run. We have a guide to follow because our first pass is fairly straight. The aim of this run is to cover roughly half the previous pass while adding in additional metal above it. At the same time you need to avoid dropping your run too far down on that first run, as you'll create excess weld metal and your cap will look unsightly. As we reach the end of this second run, if we've done it correctly, it should be neatly stacked on top of the first pass and fully fused with no gullies or slag traps between the runs. Now we're on to our third pass, continuing the same process, stacking neatly on top of that previous run to keep our weld building evenly. We're maintaining a drag angle, keeping that flux at the back of the pool, and we're holding quite an acute up angle to help defy that gravity. We have to be careful on this run as we don't want to stray too far from that top edge, otherwise it can make it difficult for our final pass to properly catch the top top of that prep. So some key takeaways when stick welding: keep your travel speed even to maintain the weld pool at that correct size, and make sure you're comfortable. There's nothing worse than having to reposition mid-weld, as it can throw off your consistency when you're welding. As we reach the end of the third run, you can see we've maintained a good overlap and positioned the weld perfectly, leaving the ideal distance for that final pass to catch the top edge of the prep. Now for the fourth and final run, we have a clear path to follow, and you can still see that top edge of the plate for guidance. We're fusing into it properly, making sure we don't get any undercut on the top plate, all while maintaining the correct overlap with that third pass. And that's bringing us to the end of this horizontal butt joint using both 6011 and 7018 electrodes. If you like what you saw, drop us a comment and let us know which welding position or electrodes you'd like us to cover next. You think this one was tricky? The vertical butt joint gave us a whole new set of challenges with some completely different problems. That video's on screen now. Go and check it out. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in that next video.